Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest, you guys will remember the back and forth with Lori, the negotiations, Tara and Lori going back and forth. Come on, $90 million. I love that. It was awesome. My next guest is the founder, as she said, the everything to Dreamland Baby, the wearable weighted blanket, right? It's the, it's got she tells the story about her son, Luke, couldn't get him to sleep. She got the weighted blanket or put not a weighted blanket at the time, but put a heavy blanket on him and kids nodded out, right? I used to use NyQuil when my kids couldn't go to sleep, but then I found out that that's not good. Oh my God. I'm kidding. I didn't do that. Give me a break. Anyway, great. Found a problem and brought a solution. I mean, that is an entrepreneur, right? And the interesting thing, and I'm going to ask Tara to tell the story about her son but she found the solution and spent a year researching it, which, I mean, think about that. What's out there, what's available. She doesn't want to waste her time going to market too soon. That's a lot. That's a commitment. And I love it. She appeared on ABC hit show Shark Tank season 11, episode 24. Tara Williams, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Let's start off with the story of the creation of Dreamland Baby. I love the story behind it. And then we'll talk about what inspired you to get on the tank.
Absolutely. So I'm a mom of 4, and my first 3 kids slept great. No problems. We hardly did sleep training. My 4th, my baby Luke, my little angel, was waking up just relentlessly every hour and a half. And it got to the point he was 6 months old. So for any parents listening, they know that is way too old to be still waking up at that frequency. So we had tried everything. We had bought every swaddle, every swing, every sleep sack, every vibrating bed. I mean, you name it, we had bought it. We spent hundreds, probably thousands of dollars. Nothing helped him. And then one night, my husband and I were sitting on the couch, hanging out, watching TV. We have a heavy throw blanket, laid it on top of him. And I noticed this immediate calm came right over his face. And it was, when I say it was immediate, it was like nothing I had ever seen, because he was a really fussy baby all the time. And I think most of it stemmed from him not sleeping at night. So he was really just cranky all day long. So I saw this calm, this sereneness, and immediately I thought he needs a weighted blanket. I was so excited because I felt I had the solution for his sleep problems. I got online. First I Googled it and I said weighted blanket for baby. Nothing came up. Okay. Then I got onto Amazon. Nothing came up. Then I looked on Etsy and there were some that were made, but they were loose weighted blankets. So there was nothing in a wearable fashion. And for my family, we're real followers. So, no co-sleeping and following all of the American Academy of Pediatric guidelines. And so any loose blanket in the crib is not safe and it's not recommended. So that's when I thought, okay, we can't buy any of these. I'm just going to need to make it. I don't sew. So I called my mother-in-law that night, almost frantic. I mean, she had said to me, is everything okay? And I'm like, no, I have this idea. It's just, you need to sew this for me. Can you make it? And she said, well, I can look into it. And so she had ordered the stenciling for it. And it took about 2 weeks for her to make it. It actually took her about 15 hours, which is crazy. And finally we got it. I'll never forget. She called me. I was at the gym at 8:00 at night. And she said, because I wasn't sleeping anyway, so there was no rhyme or reason to my days. And she said, oh, I'll drop it by tomorrow. And I said, I'm driving to your house tonight. I need it tonight. It was that. I just knew it was going to help him. And so that night we had put it on him and he slept for 12 hours. So going from waking up every hour and a half to 12 hours. I did not sleep 12 hours. Probably every hour and a half, I was still going into his room to look at him. But then I realized, okay, this is, he's alive. He's still asleep. This is helping. And so the next day my husband said, no way, it's a fluke. But then we tried it for the nap and I observed him and I just noticed he was just calm. Like he had this calmness to him. He slept for a 3-hour nap, which he had never done. He had never slept for more than 45 minutes. And then that night he slept again for the full 12 hours. And so at night 2, my husband said, okay, we might be onto something here. And then it has persisted ever since. So it was just so immediate and such a complete transformation in his sleep that I started telling people about it. Just, I made this weighted blanket for my son that he can wear so it's safe, but he still has that gentle weight. And immediately people started asking me for it. They said, I want one for my sister's babies up all night. That would have helped with my child, or I've layered heavy blankets on my kids, knowing it's not safe, but just anything to help a baby sleep, or, we're holding them to sleep at night because they want that extra sensation of the comfort. This would be perfect for them. So I started getting requests literally immediately for my mother-in-law to make more. She said, no way. That was a one-time thing for you. No chance. So that's the invention story. And I can continue to go into it, but
let me just stop you there for a second, because I think it's one of the parts, and we'll talk in more detail about when we get into the tank, but you really did the due diligence in the product safety and with the Product Safety Commission and all of that stuff, because anything, there's so much going on with children in their cribs, and what way should they lay, and on their back, on their side, and the front. I mean, everything's got to be right. So now you're putting in a weighted blanket, and that I can see people just saying, wait a minute, what is this? Is another component of fear, right? I mean, there's got to be some risk to this anyway, but you did all the due diligence to make sure that you were following all the guidelines. You definitely educated yourself. I felt comfortable listening to you tell the story. It seemed like you were somebody that's been in the field for 20 years, as opposed to someone that's just an entrepreneur. But I guess when the product comes from something you're going to use with your own child, it's a different story. But it was definitely as a father of four, if I gave him a blanket now, they'd be, what are you doing? But anyway, it was definitely calming. Like, it wasn't, I didn't feel like, oh, this lady's crazy. What is she doing with a weighted blanket and with a 6-month-old or 4-month-old? And was that a business strategy early on, that we better make sure that we're, crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's when it comes to safety?
Absolutely. And my background, it's interesting how your life ties together, but my background, so for over 10 years, I've been in the medical device space and bringing novel devices to the market. And so this is beyond putting weight on a baby. I mean, we're implanting devices in human bodies, right? So that, of course, is going to be such a higher level of FDA standards and clinical trials and testing and compliance. And so when I looked at this consumer product, I was looking through the lens of, we need a clinical trial, we need anecdotal evidence, we need, approval from the medical community before we bring this to market. In addition to all of the standard CPSC testing and safety and non-toxic and paraben, I mean, all of the toxicity type stuff that you would ever introduce in a baby product. So I really took it from that lens, and I honestly, I probably went overboard, but again, just, you can never be too safe with a baby. And if I'm going to put it on my child, I need to know that this is going to be safe and it's not going to inhibit movement, development, breathing, any of the parameters in which new parents, experienced parents, any parent is looking at their baby and saying, we are maybe eliminating an unsafe sleep practice by layering blankets on, but does this new product eliminate any other risks? So it's definitely something we get some safety questions, I would say. There's some things floating around on the internet. There was a death of a 7-month-old, and the weighted blanket had suffocated him. He was in a loose weighted blanket. So that story is tragic, and
nothing to do with your business. It was totally separate. Right?
No, but it's but it's online, and so I think and there's, I'm actually on a committee that is creating standards for weighted blankets with children, and that is one of the things that was brought up. And but again, it's a loose weighted blanket, just like loose blankets cause deaths. I mean, it's a number one cause of death for babies with SIDS, right? The suffocation component. So we eliminate that risk by having the baby wear it. And then also it's extremely light. So the clinical trial that we pulled our data from looked at 20% body weight. So they had 1 pound of weight on infants as small as 5 pounds, where we recommend baby is a minimum of 8 pounds and our weight is only 0.8 pounds. So it's a 10% correlation. So it's really, really light. I would actually love to put more on, because I think we could make it even more effective. But from a safety standpoint, we went like as conservative as we could possibly go with the weight.
And still be effective. That's cool.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, and I think I should tell you this up front, that I actually had the idea before you did. I'm not trying to challenge your patent now, but I had a yellow lab who's now 3 and 98
Yes.
pounds. When he was 1 and he's about 50 pounds, he would jump up on our bed at the end of the bed to sleep, and he would always get up and turn around and get up and circle around and get up. And he was like, DJ, Derek Jeter, by the way, he would, could you please just lay down? And I took one of the, 4 or 5 pillows we have up there, and I laid it on his back. And when he was laying down, and he was out, like literally out, just laid it against him. You know what I mean? Like tilted it on his back a little bit, so it wasn't on top of him, but he was out. And then we did it again, like a couple nights later. And I was like, wait, there is something to this. Of course, I'm no entrepreneur, so I'm not creating anything, but yeah. And now he's giant, so he doesn't need a pillow anymore.
But weighted vests do exist for dogs.
Do they really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. They're called Thunder vests.
Jeez. So you can't invent anything anymore. It's unbelievable. So let's talk about taking that to the tank. I mean, it's definitely solves a problem. When I saw it the first time, I was like, wow, that's ingenious. And it's also, creative. And I think that will definitely solve a problem. You do all the research, you develop the product. The sharks like to say it's a product, not a business, right? You are early on, you did a Kickstarter, and we'll get into the tank and the feedback from the sharks, but tell us about what inspired you to go into Shark Tank as even an option.
Yeah. So I had started watching Shark Tank on season 1. The college I went to, I'm a finance major, is very entrepreneurial. And I would always say, I'm going to be a CEO one day. I could have never imagined it would be of a baby weighted blanket company, but I was thinking more of a, Fortune 500 company. But after college, I joined several different startups, and I just have the entrepreneurial spirit. And so I've always watched the show, and I would watch it and think I could be on that show, or, I could do what that person's done. And I have had ideas along the way. I had another business that failed. I've came up with a lot of different ideas that were like as seen on TV type things, or, just these crazy ideas of launching an app to just do something crazy that would need a $500 million initial investment. Like, it's a cool idea, but you don't have any coding skills. How are you going to do that? Right. So all along the way, my family's been so supportive, and they'll always tell me straight, like, this is not a good idea, or that's not marketable, or I can't really see it. And when I came up with Dreamland Baby, like I said, it was unanimous that everybody the first question people asked was, this has to already exist. Like, there's no way. Weighted blankets are so popular for adults and kids and dogs. There's no way that someone hasn't made one for a baby yet, but they hadn't. So anyways, when I started telling people about the weighted blanket, everyone had said to me, oh, you need to go on to Shark Tank. You'd be so perfect for this show. And I think it lined up because there are a lot of amazing inventors that apply for this show, but we also had a really crazy story surrounding us. And I do believe that that was part of the allure, because at the end of the day, it is a TV show, and America needs to have a storyline to see it. And again, not to say that we would have been on or not been on, but when my son was born, my husband got laid off the day before he was born. And my husband had been with the same company since college, 15 years. And then while I was on maternity leave, I got laid off. The startup I was with closed their doors. And so we had 4 kids, 5 and under, one relentlessly waking up all night. All of a sudden, we're both unemployed. Like, it was just this really crazy time, and not the right time to start a business. But I told my husband, like, I felt like it was a race to get to market, because I had felt weighted blankets had just blown up in 2017. Everybody I knew had one. I was buying one. I was gifting them. And I said, if we don't bring this to market and we don't patent it, somebody else will, because it's such an obvious idea. And so, getting onto Shark Tank, I just felt like it was an obvious choice. I don't know why. It felt like my destiny to be on Shark Tank with all those things combined.
That's awesome. I was a fan myself back in, season 1 and we've had Tiffany on and from the elephant there. I forget the name of the elephant now, and Omar Solomon from College Hunks and all those people when they had the money stacks and they came down in an elevator, or at least the doors open like an elevator. Those are the days of of early Shark Tank. So you go through the process, and our viewers and listeners, Tara, are very familiar with the process. You get the Shark Tank Bible. Some people call it an application, or the information you have to pass on. You're assigned your producers. Tell us a little bit about your journey to Culver City and what it was like.
So it was a tough one. I actually reached out in March of 2019, and that was before the Kickstarter. And so I had sent an email, I had applied, and I got a call from the executive producer, which I did not expect. And we're going through everything, and he's like, I love this. I love your story. Weighted blankets are really popular. I think this will resonate. I think the sharks will like it. He's like, all right, what are the sales? And I said, oh, we were pre-launch. And he was like, it was like when the music stops, comes to scream. And he said, well, what's the plan? And I said, well, we've been thinking about doing a Kickstarter. And he's like, all right, when you do that, get back to me. And so it really was the motivation for me to just get it up and do it, because I had been perfecting it. We had all the clinical pieces and the safety piece were intact, but now I was just making nuanced changes, going back and forth with my factory that's overseas. And it takes about 2 weeks every time a change is made. And I want the neck slightly different. I want the zipper to have a cloud on it. And I just felt like we could have kept refining the product forever. I mean, it never launched, and the packaging wasn't quite what I wanted, and the branding wasn't totally there. But after I had that call in March with the executive producer, I was like, let's go. We're going to put a date. And so we chose May, and we're just going to launch this thing. So it really did give me that motivation to launch the Kickstarter. And the Kickstarter did really well. So we were up for a month and raised just under 25,000. But I think the important thing to note is, like, we didn't do any advertising for this. So I didn't know my head from my tail when I started this process. And when I see these other brands that do $1 million in the first 24 hours, like, they have significant marketing budget behind it, and they have people lined up ready to buy. We didn't have that. I mean, we had family and friends, and I had done a little party at my house. And it was just like, hey, share on social media. So to get the response we got was really actually pretty incredible. And so from there, I realized, like, there's legs to this thing. I mean, I knew it from my own internal friends. And then when we started doing product testing, we tested about 100 people. And it was just overwhelmingly positive. But the price is higher on it because of how long they take to produce. And we use really, really high quality materials. So it wasn't sure, everybody loves it, but are you going to open your wallet and actually buy it? That's right. And so the Kickstarter proved, yes, they will. So I had been following up with Shark Tank every step of the way. I kept sending them videos of me because I wanted to make sure that they knew that I could speak on camera, I guess. I don't know where I came up with this theory, but so I kept sending these videos, like, hey, it's me, just checking in, like, day 1 of our Kickstarter, this is what we've done. And like day 15, and they were like, okay, we're getting your messages. Like, just let us know when it's done.
We're calling the police.
So, yeah. So I kept emailing anybody that I had contact with and sending all these videos. And so then in July of 2019, I got the email. And again, like, all these moments are just, it's such a surreal experience, are etched in my mind. I was at a family dinner at my mother-in-law's house, and my in-laws were there. And I saw the pop up on my phone, Shark Tank, and it said, you're matched with the associate producer. And it was like, oh my gosh, you guys. And then, as the audience knows, every step of the way, they say, basically, this could be the last time we talk. So it's a very nerve-wracking experience. Even when you get the green light that you're going to be matched up, all along the way, there's potential moments where you can just be cut off, and that's it. And the process is over.
Even when you get out to Culver City, you do that, you would the legal meeting, and you do the prep presentation in front of the producers. We've actually talked, I don't think we've filmed, but I've had conversations with at least one entrepreneur that went out there and was let go out of that before they went to airing. So that's even a cut. I know they end every conversation with, we're not guaranteeing you'll be on the air. But it's very interesting, and it works for them. That model has been working for them for a lot of years and continues even today with season 12 just popping out a few weeks ago. Tell us a little bit about the preparation. You seemed poised. You seemed confident. You seemed to know your stuff. You told your story and you didn't lose, it was emotional for you, but you didn't lose your cookies like some people do. And I think actually look, we're human, right? If you're telling a story that what you just told us, what you went through is going to bring out your emotions. But I thought you held yourself together. It was very professionally done. Tell us about how you would, when you looked at it and saw it on air, how did you think you did?
Yeah, so I did watch it with friends, and when I saw it with them, it was the first time I had seen it. I did not have any pre-screening of it. So I remember, we had a small launch party. It was during COVID, so we were all separated. It was not exactly what I wanted, but we just had a few people over. And I had this moment of panic, probably about 1 minute before it aired. And I thought, oh my gosh, what if they make me look like a total idiot? What am I going to do? Yeah. However, I would say the way they filmed it was really how the conversation and dialogue occurred in the tank. So I did feel pretty confident. They were respectful. And I prepared for this more than anything else in my entire life. I had seen every episode of Shark Tank, regardless. I rewatched every single episode, and I would take a notebook and I just write down all the notes. So any question that any shark could ask any contestant or entrepreneur, I was prepared to answer, truly, like every single thing. So there was no question that they asked me that surprised me because I had prepared. My brother would actually ask me the questions. I'd have my kids sometimes ask me the questions, and I would stand up and answer it. And I had just gone over it so many times that it was like, oh, boom, 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 boom. I know that. So there's obviously this surreal moment where you're standing behind the doors and, oh man, I'm getting emotional right now because it truly was just such a once in a lifetime experience. And it was really cool. My husband was there, that we were able to experience it together. But we were standing behind the doors and he grabbed my hand and kind of held it. And he's like, you got this. And we walked out, and it was just an out of body experience. Like I felt like I was standing, and this makes me sound crazy to explain it this way, but bear with me. I felt like I was standing there and another version of me was on the sidelines telling me what to say. So I wasn't nervous. It was just like, it was truly an out of body experience. And it was very like, okay, you're just going to answer that question. You're going to answer this question. Okay, Mark is talking over Lori. You want to make a deal with Lori, so focus on her. I think what people don't realize is you get in there and all 5 sharks start saying stuff at the same time. So they're talking over each other. And I had also done research beyond just the show, any podcast, any interview, anything like that, any information I could glean pertaining to the show, I had read. So ahead of time, I knew that based off what I had read, that they're going to be talking over each other and kind of competing for your questions. And so I went in with a very solid game plan of, okay, Mark's not going to make a deal with you. And then Dan, who's the founder of Kind Bar, he's not going to make a deal with you. So then it really leaves Mr. Wonderful, Lori, and Robert. And so the first 2, I thought, not dismiss them, but really focus on the other 3. And then it was very clear early on, Robert didn't really understand the concept. And they didn't show a lot of that, but it was funny. It was like he hadn't heard of a weighted blanket or something. So very early on, I realized, okay, he's not interested. And so then it was really like Mr. Wonderful and Lori. So all 5 of them were asking me questions, but I was only really answering Lori and Mr. Wonderful after about probably 30 minutes, I would say. And I was in there for about 90 total. Wow. So the last hour, I really focused on just answering their questions. But Lori was my dream shark. I mean, I didn't think she would make an offer because she typically doesn't offer early on companies. And we literally had launched our website 3 weeks prior. So, I mean, there was no data there. It was like, oh, great, you've done a Kickstarter. Okay, so what? All these questions. And the other thing that, was interesting is they didn't really have a chance to beat me up on things like average, lifetime customer value, because we don't have that information. Yeah. The data wasn't there yet. And our landed costs were really good and the product made sense. And, so it was a really great conversation overall.
We're going to talk about what the sharks felt about your presentation and about your business. I want to mention, though, that not only, and you described in there really well compared to what we've heard. And guys, what's Tara? She's like 110, right? I think, because 110 entrepreneurs have been on this show. And we hear the same thing, but it's not only that they're talking all at once, but we hear they're talking to each other, right? They're going back and forth this way. And these are people that expect when they ask a question that you answer it immediately. They're not used to waiting, right? It's, that's why Mark has his, 24-second clock. He doesn't want to wait he doesn't care about the other ones. He wants his decision now. And so I can't even imagine what that's like, that kind of boardroom mentality that you have to go through. Let's answer a couple questions from some of our viewers and listeners. Anthony from Staten Island. Oh, Anthony from Staten Island. I can do that because I'm Italian. I can say that to Anthony. It doesn't bother him. He wants to know, Tara, what were there key points of your presentation that you felt were critical for the sharks to understand?
Yeah, I really wanted them to hear my personal story and my background and how much I had to fight to get to even be on the show, because we didn't have the numbers to back it up. So I knew if somebody was going to make a deal with me, they were betting on me. And, so I thought that was important.
Yeah, I agree. Conversely, Ashley is asking, what weak areas of your business did you thought may be concerning during the Q&A?
I mean, everything. I will never forget Mark Cuban. I told him, we've just started doing some paid advertising on social media. That's, one of the first things we looked into. And he said, there's a thing called influencers. Have you thought of that? And I remember sitting there thinking like, man, yeah, that's a great idea. So now it's comical to look back. And even probably, I would say, if I had filmed 1 month later, I would have been in a completely different sphere. But really, I mean, we were literally just launching. And so a lot of the stuff, we just weren't prepared with those bigger marketing questions and forecasting questions. And I had a forecast done, but it truly was just a shot in the dark with no real anything to back it up. All that.
To defend you in that, though, you have to, I think about building, we built this little gig, right? And you think about what's top of mind at that time. You're not thinking about marketing yet. You're just trying to put a viable product in front of somebody, right? And you're doing all the research and the safety stuff, and you're going through that, and you're listening to feedback from customers and reviews and testimonials. And so, website marketing, yeah, we'll get there. But I understand it might look sophomoric to say, well, influencer, oh, why didn't I think of that? But you're like focused over here. I know it's over here and we'll get there, but you're not there yet. And I love the fact, Tara, that when you said, Luke had this problem, we answered it or solved it. My stepmother, where do I get the stuff that comes into my brain? My mother-in-law puts the prototype together. And then you're researching and you're figuring it out for a long period of time. You didn't say like a month, you said a year, right? And so that type of thought process is someone still going, do I have something here? Do I have something here? Do I have something? And then finally saying, I do, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even with the Kickstarter, I think for me, I don't know. I didn't feel like it was validated until probably a couple months in. And when I first felt my true validation is when we were about 4 months in, we started having repeat customers. So they said, oh, I had bought it when my baby was 2 months old, and now we're getting the next size up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like people love this so much, they're buying the next one. And it's so cool now because we are at the point where, we are getting those customers who have bought all 3 sizes, and now they're looking for the next option. And we are coming out with weighted blankets for toddlers and children. And so that will be released in December. And so it's so cool to be able to grow with our customers and create products that they want and that they're asking for.
So you go in asking for 100,000 for 10%. You go through the demonstration, you show the sharks, you talk about your business. 2 key things that I think can be nails in the coffin are not having much revenue, which you had Kickstarter revenue and not much beyond that.
Right.
And then having a product, because they love saying it's just a product, it's not a business yet, kind of come back and see us when it's more than that. And I remember watching your episode the first time, and I'm thinking, oh no, like, oh God, she doesn't have that much revenue. And she just has the blanket. Oh, what are we going to do here? And let me tell you something. This is a classic purchasing, investing in the person. And it really was. I mean, it was, there's nothing in your favor. Not to say that anything was bad. You raised $25,000. If that's not a proof of concept, right? Kickstarter said, yes, we think it's awesome, right? So there's definitely signs of things that are positive. But from a Shark Tank perspective, you got a couple red flags popping up. Tell us a little bit about the discussions at the end when Lori's involved and you're kind of going back and forth. It looks like some people are going away. You talked about Daniel and Mark. Robert doesn't get it. And by the way, we don't know what happened to the eat yet. Is this after lunch? Is this the 10th hour of the day? Who knows, right? But tell us a little bit about that negotiation you had with Lori. There was some convincing there, quite a sales job by you. Everybody wants to hear about it. Tell us about it.
Oh, man. So, I mean, I believe in this company more than I believe in anything. I call it my fifth baby. And so I have no doubt that it's going to be huge and that we will make this a $90 million company, right? And so when Lori made the deal, she offered me $100,000 for 25%. Right. And I just felt like that was so astronomically high. Even with the value that Lori brings, I just thought, how can I give away a quarter of my company? And again, I was thinking in the moment, long term, we are, how are we going to do another VC round after this? And we're valuing the company so low. If we're giving away that much, it'd have to be years of sales before we raise more money. And from a cash flow perspective, are we going to be able to do that? And so when she came in, I was like, I can't go back and say, only 10%. I'm sticking there because from her perspective, I get it. It was taking a huge risk on me, on the product, on the company, on my ability to grow this as a brand. And we really, truly, our valuation at that point was probably zero. I was saying 1.7 million, but it was unknown, right? And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to at least ask 20% because that feels more palatable. And so I don't know. I dug inside for some courage. It was like, worst thing she can do is say no. And then we're right back where we were. And then I was going to accept, but she did meet me halfway.
But you went for it. There was a gleam in your eye that said, I'm going for it. And you went with the $90 million. We can do this, Lori. Come on, Lori. We can do this. And then, and she went 22 and a half. And you even got a couple points down. So, it was really, and for someone that, when you countered, the Sharks went like, oh, are you kidding me? Take that thing and run. Yeah. Right. And I love the fact that you countered. I loved it. And I think Mark Cuban said something like, I like you even more now or something like that, right?
Yeah. Mr. Wonderful said, I like you less. And Mark said, I like you more.
That was awesome. Awesome moment. So tell everybody about, so now you have a deal. You're literally floating down Shark Tank Alley, what we call the runway there. Really? Tell us about what happens next. Are you in your trailer and Dan shows up? Dan is Lori's husband and runs her team. Tell us a little bit about post Tank with getting all the due diligence done.
So this was really one of my favorite moments because my husband had come out with me and he was there during the introduction. He was like an actor basically and did the funny thing where he woke up and hit his leg on the crib. But after that, he left. And I thought he had been sitting, I don't know where, somewhere on the sidelines and watching me. And unbeknownst to me, as soon as he walked off, they said, you need to leave the set. And so they put him on the golf cart and they brought him right back to the trailer. So he wasn't able to watch it.
Wow.
So I, of course I'm on cloud nine. It was just such a euphoric. Again, the whole experience so surreal and to be able to get a deal and so then I'm going on the cart and I'm asking my producers who have been with me since July at this point. We've been talking every week. I'm like, how did I do? And they're like, you killed it. And I was like, oh my gosh, because it felt like it went by in a blink of an eye. It's like, was I in there for 1 minute? And I knew I was in there for a long time, but it was so fast and it was over. And so then I drove back to the trailer and I opened the door and my husband was like, oh, like he was sitting there and my husband, if you know him, he's a very kind of even keel guy. He doesn't get very excited. Like he's just, even keel. And so I opened the trailer. I've never seen him so like, I'm so excited. I'm beaming and he's beaming. And I'm like, we did it. And he's like, what happened? And I was like, wait, you weren't watching? And he said, no. And so then I was able to tell him and it was just such a high moment and to be able to tell him. And I remember he hugged me and said, he's so proud of me. And like, it was a moment I'll never forget. It's such a special moment to me. So cool. That was truly like, that was the highlight of my life. Seriously. That sounds over the top, but it really was. I mean, it was such a great moment.
That's awesome. And then did Dan get in contact with you or how does that work?
Yes. Okay. So Dan came into the trailer and we talked about stuff and he was on the sidelines wherever that was, but he had taken pictures. So he was showing us some pictures. And it was just surreal. Like I'm hugging Lori Grenier, someone who I've watched for 10 years. And I so much admire what she's done in her career and her business. And I'm sitting with her husband and business partner, like what is happening right now? So we kind of went over what all the next steps would be and that the team would be reaching out. And Dan is just the nicest guy. I mean, Lori and Dan are just wonderful people. So they really made me feel super confident with everything. And it was really exciting.
Matt from Coconut Grove, Florida wants to know, were there any memorable moments or anecdotal moments that you care to share that we didn't see on TV?
So I was surprised they didn't air this. At one point, Mr. Wonderful had said, I think at one point everybody basically got bored because they clearly knew I was only talking to Lori. So, they're all just kind of sitting there like, okay, she's not even answering our questions at this point. But at one point, Mr. Wonderful had said, okay, you two, he said, he's like, this is ridiculous. Tara, I just want to offer you like $1 million and go in 50-50 and like make this something. And I was like, wait, hold on. So I was like, are you making an offer? And he was like, no, but there was a lot of banter surrounding that. And he's a really, they make him look like he's this really mean guy, but he was super nice. He was really, they're all, I mean, I could not speak more highly of the whole group and everybody there, just so nice. Awesome. And so, we had a lot of fun banter, but I was surprised they actually didn't show that part.
So we want to find out what's going on with the product and how the business is doing and all that. But I want to ask you a little bit about the Shark Tank effect. So you get out of there, you find out your show is going to air finally. You got a couple, 2-3 weeks before that notice they give you. A couple things. Tell us a little bit about did you see a surge of orders come in? Did you get any inquiries about investments? Did you get wholesaler requests? Tell us a little bit about your experience with the Shark Tank effect.
Yeah, it was insane, really. And then it was coupled, I think I had an even bigger unusual experience because since COVID-19 had occurred, it happened in China first. And so our factory was shut down. And so I had not a lot of inventory for Q1. So January, February, March, like we were struggling just to meet demand and constantly out. We were doing pre-orders. We weren't doing any advertising at that point because it was like we would advertise or market or work with an influencer, any of these techniques. And as soon as we put something up, it was like we just immediately sell out. So in April is when we got some of that initial inventory that I had pre-ordered that was supposed to come in Q1. So we were pretty well stocked. And then we had like a second surge coming basically right after we aired. So, I mean, and the craziest thing about all of this is in March, I had no like literally nothing. In March, I had seen, like I remembered what everybody wore the day I filmed. And then obviously I was behind the scenes with other entrepreneurs. And so in March, I had seen them air. And I thought, oh no, like we didn't make it. We didn't make the cut. Because even after you film and even if you make a deal, there's no guarantee that you get on air. Right. So I was super disappointed. I was like, man, like that's it. We didn't make a cut. And so again, like harassing the poor producers, I was like, so I saw everyone that I filmed with, like, does this mean we didn't make it? Will we get an email either way? And one of them said, like, hold the faith. We've moved some things around because of COVID, but like hold the faith, something like that. And I was like, wait, what does that mean? And so then I still was watching every week, and I knew we'd only get a 2-week notice. So then I was just watching the clock count down, and somebody said, maybe they're just saving you for the finale. I was like, what are the chances of that? Well, we were on the finale. So it was truly the last episode. So I had almost given up at one point. And so we weren't really like making a lot of preparation for it, but it just worked out by the grace of God that we had all this inventory that just randomly came at the end, mid-April, and then mid-May, and we aired on May 15th. So that's something you don't have enough time if you're importing to adjust. And so fortunately we had that. Our sales started really ramping up in April. And then in May, I mean, it was insane. Like the night we aired, I think we sold 2,000 units, just that one night. Like it was crazy. I mean, my chart was like, woo, and then, it kind of slowly came down. But then people also DVR it. So it was through that weekend too. But I had brought on a couple, my sister and my mom helped, and we had one customer service person at the time. I was doing customer service. And so I asked everyone, like, hey, all hands on deck to answer any questions, any emails. And we had people going around the clock, and it was like, we could not keep up. And then our fulfillment center, they couldn't get our product out quick enough. They had allocated us like 100 per day. And so we, had 1,000 per day for, several days there, and they were just stretching it out. And so then we had a second, some of that second inventory that was coming. And I said, can we reroute it to my house? Because I can get people to come over and we'll just pack them all up. So at one point, like in June, we were the packing center, which was a huge mistake. I personally sent out 5,000 orders in the month of June, which like completely took me off from doing anything else because I was doing that. And so we're like, okay, we've switched fulfillment centers. We're like, we need to get somebody who can have more volume. And so I would say things have steadied out now, but it was insane. And yeah, same thing with like wholesalers, stores, investors, marketing people. I mean, I think I had like at one point 20, 30,000 emails, truly, just like from that weekend. And, a lot of it's junk, but it was insane. The thing that I actually was super, super cool is we got reached out a lot by people saying like how much we inspired them.
That's cool.
And I one of the most rewarding parts about it was one of our friends has girls, one who's in middle school and one who's in high school. And they watched it with their girls. Everyone we knew was like, we're so excited. Like, I'm just a regular person. Like, we have a famous friend on TV. So everybody tuned in for it. And so she called me and she said, Tara, was the coolest thing. Like, my girl said to me, like, I can be an entrepreneur. Like, Tara was able to do that. Like, I could do that too. So, part of the hope was, of course, to inspire young girls, but like women, I mean, anybody really, like there's no right fit for who can and cannot be an entrepreneur. So that was a really byline, but kind of cool thing about the experience.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And it is inspirational. I mean, you didn't walk in there with, you were obviously in the medical device field and you knew that industry inside and out, but running a business and building a business and all that comes with it is a lot of stuff, and you're learning as you go. And I mean, that's what makes that whole thing. And then you add on to you're unemployed, and it's unbelievable. I mean, the stick-to-itiveness and your journey, I don't want to say it couldn't have been more difficult, but it's close. I mean, you had to get through a lot of stuff to where you are. And that's rewarding and inspiring, right? It's people are looking at that saying, wow, and then what you do with Lori, you're like, come on, Lori. I'm not sure she goes with you if you don't really egg her on a little bit.
Yeah.
And you were all in. And I love that about it. You were just all in. I'm throwing my chips in the middle of the table, make a deal or I'm walking, so it was really cool. Tell us about, Dreamland Baby and how everything's going. How's the business? How's the product evolved? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's same core product that they had when we launched the Kickstarter. We had a size small and a size medium. So fitting babies up to 12 months. We now have a large that's a 12 to 24 month, and then, like I said, the weighted blankets for toddlers and children are coming out in December. And we have I don't think I can mention it quite yet, but we have a whole bunch of things in the pipeline. And I have another thing that I would consider like an invention that we're getting patents on and stuff. And it's really neat to think like, it's all in the same space, but that like, wow, I could invent more than one thing. So that product I think is gonna be a game changer. And that will be out probably like next summer. It's taken a little longer to develop. But things are going amazing, like better than I could have ever hoped. I'm big on putting positive energy into the world and getting it back, and law of attraction and vision boards. And I had put a number on the vision board that I had done with some girlfriends in January of 2020. And it was a number that was just so high and so astronomical. And I was like, there's no way we can hit this. But I was like, but why not? And if we get half, I'll still be happy. And we actually have doubled that number for revenue.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. So it's been an incredible journey, and I'm now going into 2021 looking to make some significant hires. I just brought on a COO, and we have about 10 people on the team now that are in a contracting capacity, but we're growing, and we're growing really fast. And it's really neat because as much as the advertising and PR and all that stuff is great, where we're really growing is the word of mouth, which just says, you have an awesome product.
Absolutely.
And when I get these comments and notes from moms saying, like, you changed my life, you gave me my life back. If you're not sleeping, you're not living. And so to be able to get a full night of sleep, and then it's so cool because those people are going to tell 5 of their friends who are buying it, who tell 5 of their friends. And I remember people say, like, you'll hit a spot where it becomes a snowball, and it's snowballing for sure. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I guess people should go to dreamlandbabyco.com, dreamlandbabyco.com. That's where I was last night, checking it out. You guys got to check the website out. Head out there. It is awesome. It's got, and the best thing about it's got a Q&A section that I was looking at. It's got like product use. It has a whole section on the product safety that we were talking about earlier in the conversation with Tara. It gives you some of the new things that are going on, allows you to look at reviews, all that stuff, and gives you all the contact stuff that you need. Anywhere else, Tara, that we should be looking? Or is that it?
We do a lot on Instagram, and it's the same thing, Dreamland Baby Co. So, we're really active on there. I'll jump on sometimes and answer questions, but reach out to us. And, if there's anybody with questions about Shark Tank or anything else, I love helping other entrepreneurs. So I'm totally open for that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing the story, sharing your journey, giving us some pretty good business tips to take forward, and congratulations on all your success. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be back with more What Would You Ask podcast in a second.